Joining us now on the line is our good friend Larry Kudlow, senior contributor over at CNBC, all-round good guy, and the host of the Larry Kudlow Show, which can be heard here on Saturdays, right here on WMAL. Larry, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We would not use the word hellion or spitfire to describe you. Just want to say for the record.
Shucks.
Well, listen, let's talk about, first of all, we got this debate coming up, the big first Republican debate. You're going to have 10 people on the main stage and then another event, looks like, with about 7 people on it. And new polls come out yesterday and show that this Donald Trump thing doesn't show any signs of ending. It's he's got like
this Donald Trump thing.
26% of the GOP primary voters say that they would vote for Donald Trump. And here's the interesting statistic: 34% of those who were surveyed said they could definitely vote for Trump. It would not be something that they would pull back on. And 33% said that they would never vote for Trump, but that's down from 59%. So it seems that some in the GOP are finding a great deal of comfort with Donald Trump as perhaps a candidate that they're taking very seriously.
Well, I think that's probably true. I just want to note, though, in those numbers, both Quinnipiac and Wall Street Journal basically showed Trump getting a fifth of the votes in a crowded field.
Yeah.
And 50 to 60% negatives. I mean, that's a gigantic number, and it kind of tells me that when the field narrows, he's going to have trouble.
Yeah.
You can't win with 50 or 60% negatives. I mean, the Quinnipiac was even clear. I mean, basically, 1/5 said they were for him, and 3/5 said they were against him. And I just don't know how you deal with that. And I think that exposes the soft underbelly of his campaign. And I think he's got to show issues in this debate. I mean, I think that most of the participants, let's say in the 9 o'clock debate, are going to try to propose, how to make America grow, how to create jobs, and how to defend America. I think those are going to be the three principal ideas here. We need to know what Mr. Trump is going to propose. He's said a lot of things. He's a nativist on immigration. He's the greatest job creator in the history of the earth. Well, you got to be more specific than that. And I think he needs to do that to show people and get his negatives down, because nobody's going to win this nomination with 60% negatives. Ain't going to happen.
Do you? I just want to quickly. Is it fair to call him a nativist? That term has been used as a pejorative for people who were anti-Irish immigration back in the 19th century. All he's saying is, let's enforce our borders and let's do this the right way and the legal way, because these people who are coming here illegally, a lot of them have bad intentions. That doesn't make him a nativist.
I don't think that's all he said. I
Okay.
think he said much harsher.
Well, what he said was
crueler.
He said,
now, he may back off that, and in fact, there was some evidence when he was down at the Mexican border that he was softening his language. But the initial language was very, very harshly.
Well, he pointed out the fact, and by the way, he pointed it out in the same weekly news cycle that saw an illegal immigrant who was protected by sanctuary city laws in San Francisco brutally murder an innocent woman. He said that people who come here illegally, they're not all here just to help their families and help their children. Some of them are committing crimes.
Well, I agree with that. Everybody agrees with that.
Okay.
Right. The sanctuary city thing is horrible and has to be changed. But no, he's got to show me at least, that there's room for some kind of Big Ten immigration reform. I haven't heard that from him, and I think that's going to be an issue.
Larry Kudlow, yesterday the president used his pen and his phone to allow the EPA to theoretically do some serious damage to the coal industry. When asked about it, well, I don't think he was asked, but this was part of his remarks. Listen to this.
Communities across America have been losing coal jobs for decades. I want to work with Congress to help them, not to use them as a political football. Partisan press releases aren't going to help those families.
So he's claiming that his new regulations are going to help those coal mining communities. What do you say to that?
It's nonsense. It's going to destroy the coal industry. Everybody knows he's going to destroy the coal industry. It's interesting to me, the numbers here. I mean, the estimates of economic loss are about $2.5 trillion. The actual benefits from this are variously estimated at 2/100ths of a degree improvement by 2100.
Yeah.
By 2100.
That ain't going to stop the sea levels from rising, as he promised.
Right. I mean, first of all, there is a debate about climate change. There's a debate about what climate change means. That's very important.
Well, not according to him.
Well, I get that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, so his idea that we're going to save coal industry knows it's actually in some sense already been destroyed. There will be no new coal plants unless current EPA regulations are overturned. What they're doing is taking a step further, and I don't think the coal industry can possibly meet this, whether the states are, forced to do it or not. And most states, in the coal area are not going to do anything, and they'll probably be in federal courts and so forth to deal with that. But this is just part of his environmental nonsense. It's totally anti-growth. The rest of the world's not following suit. But you have to have at some point some scientific sense of cost versus benefits.
Well, exactly.
And that's what we don't have here. I was watching the NewsHour last night where they interviewed this woman who runs EPA, and none of the NewsHour people bothered to raise this point, what the costs and benefits are. And so the woman from EPA just went on happily about how great this was. Well, it's not great, and the gains we will get from it they're minuscule, infinitesimal, and you just have to ask yourself, what are we doing? The EPA has become a rogue agency under Obama's administration, and I think Republicans ought to spend a little time on that because it will jack up the cost. And, in Europe, for example, and elsewhere, they've tried this approach, and they've pulled back, and then you had Hillary with her speech about renewable fuels, where she's going to have, 500,000 solar panels and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's the answer. That's the answer.
This is like, 500,000 cylinders coming down the road again. And I just don't think this is either A, popular, or B, passes the science sniff test.
Well, you talk about cost versus benefit. That's really what is lacking here. I mean, the cost of energy is going to go up dramatically. That impacts your budget. That impacts my budget. That impacts industry. That's an across-the-board thing. When energy prices go up, everybody takes the hit.
It's a big tax.
And if you got something huge in return for it, you'd say, well, maybe we need to do that. But as you point out, there is no benefit. The benefit is minuscule.
EPA and Dodd-Frank are the two most onerous regulatory actions taken in the last 7 years, and they are principal reasons why the economy is growing at the worst recovery pace since World War II 70 years ago. In some sense, the regulatory burden is worse than the tax burden. The tax burden has gone up, but it's the threat of higher taxes that has been a bigger issue. And, of course, the failure to get our corporate tax rate down to world competitive levels.
Right.
But in specific terms, economic terms, the real hurt has been inflicted by these and other regulatory interests, including things like, what's going on in California where there's a shortage of water, so we can save some little snailfish that's an eighth of an inch. That stuff's just insanity. And, GOP has got to go after that. Here's my basic point.
Okay, very quickly, because we're way over.
They've got to go after this in specific terms. That's my point.
All right. Listen,
Thank you,
Larry,
Larry,
always a pleasure.
Thank you.